and a vegetarian diet. So this meant that these bodily cells were losing sodium, but with a vegetarian diet there wasn't much sodium intake. So we developed complex both physiology and psychology or behavioural patterns to ensure that we could consume, or animal life, terrestrial life, could consume enough sodium. And the behaviour was appetite. So we have an appetitive drive to consume sodium. That was developed over these many billion years, so a long time. Now we can think about how much is too much. What we know is that we can probably consume about 1.2 grams a day, and that is probably our requirement to have an adequate need. We also know that 6 grams a day is the maximum requirement, the absolute maximum intake that we should have before we start getting, these adverse health consequences. We also know that our actual consumption is around 9 to 12 grams a day. So this creates this added problem. Now, I suppose the question is why? Why are we consuming so much? Now, again, if we think back a number of years ago, and we're talking hundreds of thousands and millions and billions of years ago, this is what the environment looked like. Forests in the ocean. Whereas today, if we want to do our shopping, we don't generally go out and hunt it. We go to a supermarket shelf and we have a very stable food supply filled with processed foods. And this is where the majority of our sodium intake or our salt intake comes from. It's estimated that in a Western society, like we have here in Melbourne, 80% of our dietary salt intake is from processed foods. And I would estimate that from that we can also say that 80% of the sodium or salt that we eat is actually invisible to taste. So it's buried within the food and not available to our taste receptors. Our taste receptors are there for one reason and one reason only, to tell us that there's sodium in a food and to consume that food. That's the appetite drive. If it's buried within a food in large quantities, we'll get a quantity of it to the taste receptors. When we actually swallow the food, it's all available for the physiological functions, and that's where the problems and the health problems start to arise. Okay, question time.